What if everything you've been told about the last days is incomplete? Wars, earthquakes, famines, pandemics. Every time something shakes the world, people point at the sky and say, "This is it. These are the signs." But what if the real signs are something far more subtle, more quiet, and more dangerous? What if the most important warning in all of Scripture about the last days has almost nothing to do with what's happening outside and everything to do with what's happening inside? The Bible describes the last days in a way most people completely miss. It's not just about disasters. It's not just about wars. It's about people. It's about hearts. It's about a slow, invisible shift that has already begun. Stay with me, because what we're about to uncover changes everything. Most of us grew up hearing the same things about the end times: wars, natural disasters, global chaos. And yes, those things are in Scripture. We're not dismissing them. But here's what nobody tells you. Jesus himself said that those things are only the beginning of sorrows. Matthew 24, verse 8. Not the end, not the climax. They are the beginning. So if wars and earthquakes are just the opening act, what's the main event? Here's the problem with focusing only on world events. You can spend your whole life watching the news, tracking headlines, mapping geopolitical chaos, and completely miss what God is actually saying. The real truth is that the deeper signs don't trend on social media. They don't make breaking news. They don't come with sirens and red alerts. They come quietly, slowly, and subtly. And that is exactly why Jesus gave a warning that almost nobody talks about. The very first thing Jesus said when his disciples asked about the end times was not, "Watch for earthquakes," not, "Watch for wars." He said, "Take heed that no one deceives you." That was the first word, the first warning. It was not destruction, rather it was deception. Think about that. Out of everything he could have said first, he said, "Be careful what you believe." And he didn't stop there. He said many would come in his name. Many would look right, sound right, feel right, and still lead people away from the truth. Here's what makes this so unsettling. He didn't say the lie would be obvious. He said it would be convincing, persuasive. It would look like light. It would use the right words. It would quote Scripture. It would fill buildings. The danger in the last days is not that truth disappears entirely. It's that truth gets diluted, stretched, softened, mixed with something else until it barely resembles itself anymore. You won't always be told a flat-out lie. You'll be told a version of the truth, a comfortable version, a version that costs you nothing. And that, Jesus said, is the first thing to watch for. Now turn to 2 Timothy chapter 3, and I want you to read this slowly because it is startling in how current it sounds. Paul writes, "In the last days perilous times will come, for men will be lovers of themselves, lovers of money, boastful, proud, blasphemers, disobedient to parents, unthankful, unholy, unloving, unforgiving, slanderers, without self-control, brutal, despisers of good." Read that again. Lovers of themselves, self at the center of everything, without self-control. Every desire, every impulse, every feeling, treated as something that must be immediately satisfied. Unthankful, a generation that has more than any generation in history and is more discontent than ever before. And then Paul says something that cuts right to the bone. Having a form of godliness, but denying its power. This isn't a description of godless pagans. This is a description of a religious people. People who still look spiritual on the surface. Jesus put it another way. He said in Matthew 24:12, "Because lawlessness will abound, the love of many will grow cold." Not disappear, but grow cold. Cold love doesn't explode. It doesn't rage. It just fades. It becomes indifferent. It becomes tired of sacrifice. It becomes too busy, too distracted, too comfortable to burn the way it once did. Look around, look honestly, and ask yourself, do you see this? It is not in the news, not in other people. Do you see it in yourself? And now we arrive at the part most people don't want to talk about, because up until now, it's easy to point outward. Easy to say, yes, the world is getting worse. It's easy to shake your head at the headlines and feel spiritually safe because you're on the right side of the glass. But Jesus didn't only warn about the world outside the church. He warned about what would happen inside it. In Revelation chapter 3, he speaks to the church at Laodicea, and what he says is one of the most sobering things in all of Scripture. He says, I know your works, that you are neither cold nor hot. I could wish you were cold or hot. So then, because you are lukewarm, I will vomit you out of my mouth. That is strong and uncomfortable language. He said lukewarm, not cold, not openly rejecting God, not mocking faith, just comfortable, just going through the motions, sitting in the right building, singing the right songs, saying the right words and feeling nothing, meaning nothing, being changed by nothing. And the next verse is very terrifying. It says, because you say, I am rich, have become wealthy, and have need of nothing, and do not know that you are wretched, miserable, poor, blind, and naked. They thought they were fine. They had no idea. The greatest deception in the last days is not outside the church. It is the person sitting inside it, week after week, completely convinced they are right with God, while their heart has quietly grown cold. Their faith has quietly grown hollow, and they have never once noticed. This is not a message of condemnation. This is a mirror. So let's step back and reframe everything we've covered. The last days are not primarily about destruction. They are about exposure. They are about a divine separation between what is real and what is imitation, between faith that has been built on the rock and faith that has been built on sand, between love that endures and love that only existed when it was convenient. God is not surprised by any of this. He told us in advance to prepare us. 1 Peter 4:7 says, the end of all things is at hand. Therefore be serious and watchful in your prayers. The last days are not a season for despair. They are a season for clarity, a season to stop pretending, a season to stop playing church, stop rehearsing religion, and start asking the hard question, is what I have real? Because when everything gets shaken, and it will, only what is unshakable will remain. And you want to be standing on that ground. Let me name a few signs that don't get enough attention. The first is spiritual apathy, the slow erosion of hunger for God. When prayer becomes routine instead of pursuit, when the word feels like an obligation instead of life, when you can go days without thinking about eternity and it doesn't even bother you. The second is comfort replacing conviction. When we start choosing churches, teachers, and messages based on how they make us feel, rather than whether they're true. When we surround ourselves only with voices that affirm us. When truth that challenges us starts to feel like an attack. The third is truth becoming offensive. When the plain, clear words of Scripture are labeled as harsh, outdated, or unloving. When standing firm on what God said starts to cost you socially. When you feel pressure, even inside Christian spaces, to soften the gospel until it has no edge left. Paul warned Timothy, the time will come when they will not endure sound doctrine, but according to their own desires, they will heap up for themselves teachers, and they will turn their ears away from the truth. 2 Timothy 4:3-4. Read that again. According to their own desires, they won't abandon God entirely, they'll just customize him. They'll keep the parts they like and quietly delete the parts that demand something from them. The most dangerous sign is not recognizing the signs. So what do you do with all of this? First, stay rooted in Scripture, not in trends, not in popular teachers, not in what feels right. Read it for yourself, wrestle with it, Let it challenge you. Let it correct you. Psalm 119:105 says, "Your word is a lamp to my feet and a light to my path." Friends, you need that lamp now. Second, stay alert, not afraid. God did not give us a spirit of fear. He gave us power, love, and a sound mind. You are not meant to spend your days trembling at headlines. You are meant to be anchored, clear-eyed, and ready. Third, examine your own heart. This is the hardest one. Ask God honestly, is my love real? Is my faith alive? Am I growing or just going through motions? David prayed it in Psalm 139. "Search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there is any wicked way in me." That is a brave prayer. Pray it too. This is not a message of fear. It is a call to awareness, a call to wake up, take inventory, and make sure that when the final test comes, you are standing on something that holds. The last days are not just coming. In many ways, they are already here. The deception has already started. The love has already started growing cold in many hearts. The lukewarm church already exists. The signs are already unfolding quietly and persistently. The question is not when it will happen. The question is, who will you be when it does? Will you be someone who saw it clearly and responded? Someone who chose depth over comfort, truth over convenience, fire over lukewarm faith? That is the call. That is the invitation. And it starts right now. If this spoke to you, share it. Someone in your life needs to hear this today. And drop a comment below on which part that hit you hardest. I read every one. Stay rooted. Stay watchful. See you in the next one. Shalom.